Brilliant. So welcome everybody in this room today. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining this very important masterclass for doctors who are moving careers or changing careers, particularly if it's a non-clinical career and particularly if it's an industry. But in this masterclass, I'm going to share with you some really important principles and strategy that is going to help speed up that journey by leveraging LinkedIn as a tool. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about that. So, well done for actually getting here, because most doctors that we see, because we're all busy people, but also there's a great deal of fear in moving forward into something completely different. They won't take much in the way of action. So for those of you in the room here today or listening to this, well done for taking action and exploring a way to really upskill yourself and get yourself ahead of the competition. So in order for you to get the most value out of this masterclass, it's really important to kind of have the right mindset when watching this, because there is a lot of content. I do not expect you to kind of understand all of it. You will understand it, but it will take time to absorb it. This is why we give you the recording to watch in your own time. We will, as I said, talk about some fundamental concepts and strategies. And this is to ensure that you're going to be able to develop your own structure and framework for moving sustainably to a new career. And I know as doctors, we are very much used to being told exactly what to do and how to do it in our careers. But the reality is the world of work outside of medicine doesn't have a strict structure or framework. So therefore this is all about creating your own North Star and making sure you don't get lost in the process, and creating your own category of one. So just some like housekeeping stuff. So I've created this as a meeting today. We usually do it as a webinar, but from the number of people, we're really hot on creating community. So for those of you who are here today, I would love it if you could introduce yourself. You can either do it on video or you can do it in the chat box. So I really want to know who you are and very, very, very briefly what you're planning to do. You might not know, and that's great as well. That's cool. But let's do a little bit of intros. I'm going to start off with my intro since I'm here. So I'm Abena. I'm the founder and CEO of MedicFootprints. I'm also a consultant in occupational health. I'm kind of a mat leave that will kind of end shortly with a baby or two. But with regards to my use of LinkedIn, so I've been on LinkedIn for I don't know how long, to be honest. However, I've been on it, I've been off it, I've been on it, I've been off it. But particularly around the pandemic, I've used it a lot more. And now it's my absolutely daily go-to platform. And considering I'm someone that juggles a lot of things, in fact, I go on it daily, is that actually a testament to actually how valuable it is to my day-to-day professional and personal development. And it's a tool that I advocate, especially if you are changing careers, but also even just as a clinical doctor, you want to really grow your influence and your reach and increase your chances of getting into the career that you want. LinkedIn is a platform to really make the most of. So, Ola.
Hi everyone, good evening. I am the Chief Growth Officer here at MedicFootprints. In a fairly recent life, I've been a consultant in intensive care and acute medicine, but I have decided that got better things to do with my life, and I have ventured out and I work with MedicFootprints in the role I just mentioned, but I also run a business travel franchise, so I have a marketing commercial experience, and I have recently become an international best-selling author. I have traveled, it's actually now 38 countries and counting, so I have got a fairly full-on life as well myself. I have to confess, I have been a very avid Facebook networker. That is my platform. That's where I mainly hang out and where I found my opportunities, which might sound a little bit odd. But LinkedIn, I definitely recognize the power of LinkedIn, but it's not been a tool that I have personally maximized using it. I've come to it recently, and I am keen to learn even more from this masterclass on how I can sharpen my own LinkedIn profile.
Awesome. So we've got a lot of people. No one's saying anything in the chat room right now. But I'm going to go over to Brogan because she's showing a video. We've got some people talking. Oh, hello, dear. Awesome.
Yeah,
Brogan, lovely to meet you.
Hello.
Hey.
I am currently a core surgical trainee in the Northwest, about to finish in August. ALCP, everything done. But yeah, I haven't applied to higher training. I'm going to take some time away from medicine. I don't know what the kind of next steps are really. I don't have a firm plan, but maybe something in health tech, health consulting with like a focus on women's health particularly is what I'm interested in.
Nice. Welcome. Women's health is such a hot sector to get into. So I'm excited for you. Awesome. Great choice. Yeah. Lee.
Hello, I'm Lee, and I'm an expert obesity doctor on a mission to bridge the gap between pharma and patients. You can tell I've been indoctrinated by these two women for a few months now. I'm currently a consultant upper GI and bariatric surgeon down in Plymouth, but I'm very much looking to find my way into industry.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, I think you're going to start thinking I'm stalking you two now.
No, we should be stalking you. It's the other way around. Jaden.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Jaden. I love your videos and your podcast, by the way.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm an F3 doctor in London who's just a bit disillusioned with medicine and have been for a while. I think I'm not quite sure what I want to do, what I'm going to go into. But I've been offered like a role in like a product manager, like accelerator. So I'm looking into like consulting or product management. But I need to kind of get over the hump of like not put myself out there on LinkedIn.
It's a big hump. It does take time.
Yeah. It does take a lot of time. Yeah.
The product is a great for a doctor, I think, competitive to get into because everyone wants to get into. But yeah, I mean it's amazing you've got an accelerator. So well done for that. Nikhil.
Hi. So I'm Nikhil. I'm an anaesthetic registrar in the West Midlands. I guess I've come because I am looking to diversify my career, so build up a sort of a portfolio career into something definitely non-clinical, so possibly health tech, possibly consulting. But yeah, I've had LinkedIn for a little while, but I've not really been sure of how to best harness its power. So I guess that's why I'm here.
Brilliant. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing. And let's hope that this presentation gets you a little bit more confident about using LinkedIn. We've also got Barry, who is a vet of the NHS and is health informatics and generally geeky. I think most docs are geeky, aren't they? Just by nature. So yeah, doing a lot of stuff. So welcome, and everyone else that didn't manage to introduce themselves, welcome. So we're going to continue. For those of you who aren't presenting today, would you mind just switching off your cameras so we can focus on the screen? Thank you so much. So you know, why are we running this particular masterclass? And you know, we've highlighted some reasons why already. That most doctors do not use LinkedIn. We know that, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm going to ask if anyone's got their microphone on. Can you please mute it and make sure it's absolutely muted? If you could check that out, Ola, just to make sure no one's accidentally not muted. So yeah, lots of doctors really struggle to get on LinkedIn, or even they're on it and they're not really sure how to make the most of it. So if that's you and you really want to make it work for you, you're in the right place. Especially if you're developing your alternative career and you recognize that it is or it can be a powerful tool, right? And we hear these kind of things again and again and again. You don't want to bother anyone. It's too overwhelming. Putting yourself out there is scary, and you don't have time to actually learn this when you've already got like a load of 101 things going on. Other general career challenge symptoms, I like to use analogies of medicine because that's who we are, we're doctors. As a structure and approach to moving to a non-clinical can be confusing. You may find that you've been applying for multiple jobs without getting a single interview, or that you've been that you've got in your mind that actually you've got to take a pay cut in order to get anywhere. You may want to work for yourself, but you're worried about whether that could be financially viable. You want to go and work for yourself, but you're not sure about finding clients that will pay what you need, or you feel like you don't have the right mindset or industry experience to get ahead. So most of you will know us, but really, really briefly, MedicFootprints, global diverse careers platform, and we are mission driven. This is one of our conferences last year, by the way. Not last year, sorry, a long time ago. We haven't done one for a few years, but that will change. So we've been running since 2014. So we're doing this quite a long time. So we've seen thousands and thousands of doctors in that time. And it's really important that we help doctors change careers sustainably, being the key word. I'm an occupational health doctor, so it's all about avoiding burnout in that change, right? So in moving to industry, you can just do this alone, which most people will do, but that does take a long time. It does come with significant challenges, especially when you've got no one to bounce those challenges off. And you make, like me, lots and lots and lots and lots of mistakes in that process. Or you can invest in a done with you approach where you have a tribe of doctors who can support you, problem solve life challenges with you, and help you achieve your vision. So a really important program we launched this year is Doctors in Industry Incubator. And that's designed to help busy doctors move to industry faster. And we have some of the fellows here today. So this masterclass is part of their curriculum, right? And on the client side, or the B2B side, business to business, we also doctor recruitment employer branding partner for ambitious companies. So finally, if this is definitely for you, if we're focusing on going to non-clinical, being a service-based solopreneur, and we like to talk about money in the incubator, and that's a very important reason why. You know, we didn't go into medicine for money, like no one here did, absolutely, right? But money is important to live. It's important to pay the bills. It's important to have the flexibility in your life and have a choice as how you live and how you work. So the reason why this is important, because it's important if you are looking for a higher income to enable you to do that. With more money, you have more choices, you have more influence and more time off as well. Again, going back to the burnout thing. So the benefits of this is also saving time. So the benefits isn't specifically just learning how to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a tool to get you to a greater goal here, right? It's a tool. So we're not focusing on you know, LinkedIn. I think this is one of the reasons why doctors tend to shy away from it, because they think about the actual LinkedIn bit, but it's actually about the bigger picture of getting you to a career that you love, right? So what we covered today is these points: setting up your profile for success, proactively attracting others, reaching out to your ideal person, and then with time, we could do this live or in your own time, to develop your high value network LinkedIn strategy. And of course, there's going to be opportunities for Q&A. So Ola will be fielding some of the questions, so feel free to put that in the chat box today. If you have a question, you can also put your hand up. That might work today. No, it won't. Zoom is basically usually kind of picking up my hand. It's not today for some reason. So you can pick up the hand if you want to actually come on video, or just do the audio and ask the question, up to you. So Ola will then come in and either interject, or we'll do it in the, there's a break after every section. So that's an opportunity for them to ask questions. So is everybody ready to get jumped into this masterclass? Yes. No one's objecting, so I'm assuming yes. Right. So let's go. Okay, so let's start with a case study. I love case studies because, you know, we learn from stories and we learn from doing, more so than just being talked at for 90 minutes, which is what I was not intending to do, but some of it is. But anyway, so I find it invaluable to put yourselves in the shoes of others to really appreciate what you need to do to achieve what you set out to do. And the better that you understand the people that you're trying to influence, the more likely you are able to influence, to actually attract them and get to your goal. So there's a case study. You're recruiting a doctor to a non-clinical role. So you're recruiting in some capacity as a recruiter, as a hiring manager, it doesn't matter. But you've got a fast growing medtech company, and you're using LinkedIn for your search when you receive a direct message. Obviously, because you're extremely busy, You don't get to that message like the minute it comes through. You see it a few days later, right? So this is the message. Hi, I'm looking for opportunities in medtech. Do you have it available at the moment? And this is their profile. So just an FYI, I don't actually know this person. I don't have any connections to them. So I've got no idea whether they're in medtech or not, but this is a public profile. It's just one that I've picked up, and it's purely for illustration. But this is their profile. Okay, so I deliberately did not spend much time on that because that's what recruiters do. So I want to ask you a question in the chat box, please. I want lots and lots of thoughts, comments, nothing's wrong. But what stood out to you in their profile? Anything. Anything that was like, okay, I remember that. No picture? Great, Emily. No photo? Little evidence of activity in medtech? Absolutely, Barry. There's not much of it. Lee. Sorry. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Quite unfocused in general. Good point. Good point. Yeah. Doesn't say much about her, but generic. Yes. Very generic. Nothing really. Yeah. No skills listed. Yeah. So I guess the next question is, you know, we talked about there's nothing really there. No description of any of the roles. Yes. And so as a recruiter, would you be inviting them for a chat or an interview? No, unlikely. It looks like a lot like mine. Would you invite yourself to an interview, Emily? Probably not. And what would you do next? You're busy. You're a recruiter. You've got like 100 DMs. What would you likely do next? Probably ignore and move on. Yes. Yes. Ignore. Ignore. Ola, what would you do? Loaded question.
I will move on to the next.
We'd move on. Great. So actually, I'll go back to this one. This is the next one. So I mean, the whole point of this is this is what happens when you don't have. I think we've all agreed that this isn't a great profile for someone that's going into medtech in particular, right? We've picked up so many different points. Just quickly to go back, no picture, no banner. Is this a real? Is this a fake profile? Some people think it could be. Nothing in here says medtech at all, and they haven't posted. So how committed is this person? And as you know, no one's there to be malicious when it comes to actually getting back to people and saying no, thank you. But the reality is they'll kind of hold off and wonder what to say and then say nothing. And that can happen quite frequently unless that person follows up. So let's do another one. You're headhunting a doctor for a medical affairs role. So I don't know if anyone knows what medical affairs is, but that essentially is an opportunity in pharma. What search terms would you use to find a doctor? So you are headhunting, you are looking, you are searching for this particular doctor. What search terms would you look for? This isn't a trick question, by the way. Lee Humphries. Oh my gosh. Besides Lee Humphries, if anyone's on LinkedIn, feel free to search for Lee Humphries right now. Anyone else? Any other comments? Pharma. Yeah, but you want to be a bit more specific. Like what else? We're specifically looking for a doctor, medical affairs. We know that's pharma. Medical doctor. Yeah, but you'd get like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of medical doctors. Good communication skills. Yeah, but we're kind of assuming that all doctors have good communication skills, and LinkedIn is a communication skills activity in itself. Medical affairs, ABPI. Yes, Denise. Someone knows her acronyms. Anything else? So again, not a trick question at all. This is like really, really similar. So I wanted to introduce to you, for those of you that haven't seen this is Sales Navigator. So Sales Navigator is another part of LinkedIn that most people won't see unless they pay for it. And it's mostly for recruiters. So it's a powerful lead generator that recruiters use to find the right candidates. And when I say lead generation, for those of you who don't know, lead is a prospect. It's basically a prospect, a person, or anyone that you can engage with for professional purpose. So that could be buying, it could be selling, it could be working with anyone, basically. And so this is a really powerful lead generator that you can filter many things. And so you can see why recruiters use this. And you can also see why it's so important for you to have a high quality profile if you want to stand out and be found, right? And for this example, I literally just searched for pharma, medical affairs, and doctor. It wasn't that more complicated than that. But you can also filter within that, right? But you don't need Sales Navigator to search for people, right? You don't need to pay for it. So this is like standard LinkedIn, right? So again, same search terms. And I specifically put it to people who I am connected with now today, or like in the last few weeks when I was doing this presentation. And so an additional to this is also, you can filter according to what they talk about, right? So what they're known for. So here I've ticked medical affairs, because I think if someone's talking about medical affairs, they're going to be hot on medical affairs, right? That, you know, they're going to be top of my list. And so on my particular list, this won't be the same with everyone, depending on how much you filter it. But on my list, we've got Yuki. So I want to say, let's take a look at Yuki. So Yuki, I mean, yes, he is currently working at Astellas. We can see that. But, you know, this is a headhunting activity. And I can see that he talks about, he's specifically chosen these hashtags in pharma. He is doing stuff in pharma. So you can look at the featured bit. And yeah, he's got activity in pharma and experience in pharma. So this, for me, looks like a pretty good profile for someone that I might want to reach out to as a recruiter. I was going to ask you this question, but I'm going to move on. But just to summarize, in case you were thinking, these are the things that recruiters would be looking at. As you know, in comparison to the previous profile, he's got a very lovely picture and he's got a lovely banner. So Nicole is asking, what does the second first on people's profiles mean? That's a really, really great question. So first degree is someone that you are directly connected with. So basically the connection happens when you request a connection. The other person said, yes, let's connect. That's a first degree, right? A second degree is someone that isn't directly connected to you, but they're connected to one of your first degree connections. So someone that you already know. So for example, a second degree connection could be a doctor that Ola worked with. Right, I don't personally know that doctor, but Ola knows that doctor, so that would be the second degree connection. A third degree connection is usually someone that's like actually outside of that general network. That's usually unrelated to what you're doing. You don't really come across them much if you're focused enough, but sometimes you might get third degrees that you want to connect with. I hope that answers your question. Yay, great. So again, we've talked about this. I wanted to move forward because we've got a lot to go through. But as you could see in his profile, he had a clear profile pic. He's got medical affairs in his hashtag and his headline, which is beneath his name, relevant posts and activities. So he's active on LinkedIn. That supports that he's actively interested in pharma, medical affairs. He's got some very good experience with detail, and he's got some acronyms there. I know that GCP stands for good clinical practice. We did a pharma masterclass actually not too long ago, guys, if you're interested. And yeah, he's active. So he's like really hot on the pharma side. So I'd be like, yes, I'd be reaching out to this guy as a recruiter. So, and just notice, because a lot of people worry, oh, I don't have enough followers, it's not going to work for me. He's got 829 followers. I mean, that's a good number, I have to say, but it's not about the followers. It's not about the followers at all. So I'd just be aware that, you know, this is what I would say is a good, I mean, obviously there's lots of room for improvement here, like there is for everything, but this is what I would say is a good profile. With the banner, you don't have to have something as flashy as that, but what we see these days is people going on brand for who they're working for or what they're interested in. Like Ola, what do you have on your profile banner right now?
Right now, actually, it's my book. So when it's come out, been available for sales. So I've got that there.
Yeah. So choose something that's relevant to you. Don't leave it blank. Just don't leave it blank, because it does look a bit weird. And yes, lots of people do leave it blank, but it kind of looks weird. And that goes against you. So don't give anyone any reason not to be interested in you or what you're doing. And interestingly enough, you know, Yuki found MedicFootprints really valuable in helping him to leverage his skills and get into industry, which is always great. So that was a message that we got from Yuki, and he's very happy with how we helped him. So LinkedIn, it's a professional platform, as you know, 875 million members, and 134.5 million of them use it daily, and over 48% of them are active. So the key about the platform is that it's designed for people to meet people meeting people. Don't forget that bit. If you remember anything, it's about people meeting people, not people meeting companies. It's people meeting people. So it's all about building relationships and networking and thought leadership and uncovering new opportunities. So that could be jobs, it could be hires, it could be clients. It's really important to remember that the platform rewards people that create. So what does that mean? So creators, I'll talk about creators a bit more later, but it rewards people who actually contribute to the development of the platform. So that's content. So as you probably heard through some of my podcasts recently, content is king. So when you're contributing content, so that could be posting, it could be sharing, it could be commenting, it could be really just updating your profile, it could be starting a group, anything, you get rewarded by getting to the outcome that you need to, using various methods. So the creator mode specifically is a setting, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But from what you need to remember is that it increases your chance of appearing in searches on people's news feeds, and it's another way to grow your network and your influence. So there are several ways to approach using LinkedIn, but I'm going to share with you my non-clinical LinkedIn strategy for doctors, right? And I'm using this strategy and I'm sharing it with you because it works. I know it works. It's worked for me. It's worked for other doctors we've supported and mentored. It gets you noticed, and it converts to getting approached, having greater influence, and establishing greater authority and credibility. And that's without spending loads and loads and loads and loads of time trying to work things out on LinkedIn. And also using an approach that works for you is an important part of that. And it helps you land your non-clinical opportunity quickly. So what do you need to be successful with this strategy? So number one, you need a clear focus or a niche. Now, this is very important. You need to have a niche, which is a specific area of interest, being specific being a key word. So the more specific you are, the better. And that helps you to focus on your goal. It gives you a better ability to influence quickly, because it gives you a smaller target audience that you can influence, and it saves you a heck of a lot of time. I think many doctors that we see, and actually I was in this category not that long ago, is that if you don't have a niche and you're very broad and you're very for everybody, no one really knows what you do. And therefore, no one can really kind of connect with you, refer you, even understand what you do. So an example of this is a very specific niche, is a surgeon with an interest in innovation and medtech. This is one of our fellows. Or if you looked up Lee Humphreys, an obesity expert who consults in pharma, or a GP coach for women doctors experiencing burnout. So these are examples from our fellows at the moment. Number two, clear purpose. So one of the reasons why doctors get overwhelmed is because they don't have a clear purpose. So again, we talked about having a clear focus, but then a clear purpose is also important. So what is your goal? Why are you using it? Right? What is your outcome that you're trying to achieve? And I find it's easier to kind of write down an achievable goal, which is like, I want to get 3 calls with decision makers in public health consultancies, or I want to identify 5 potential clients in the charitable sector who may need my social impact consulting services, or I want to book myself on 5 podcasts by the end of July to get my influence and grow it. or I want to get interviews confirmed with these specific companies that I've specifically chosen, right? The more specific, the better, because then you're like, okay, I know where I'm going. What do I need to get? What do I need to do to get there, right? Again, a lot of doctors don't want to use LinkedIn, or find it difficult. They don't have a purpose. They don't really have a North Star or direction to where they're going with it, and they don't. Therefore, you don't know how to use it. Again, I'm not using the analogy of surgery. Like, you know, you use a scalpel as a tool to open the skin, or I used to be a urologist. Use a flexible endoscope to look into someone's bladder. That is the outcome. I want to look in someone's bladder. I'm using the flexible endoscope. So LinkedIn is a flexible endoscope, right? So 3, the ability to sell yourself. So and this is another masterclass that we've done this year. So this is a big topic in itself. You know, marketing is, you know, all of this is about marketing. It's about selling yourself and being able to communicate effectively. It's also about how well you can grow your awareness about what you do and communicate the value that you can offer and enable your audience to make decisions quickly as to whether to work with you or not to work with you, right? People thank you. Like, you know, Ola, you were saying earlier, you know, she got approached by someone who was asking for something clinical. We don't really do traditional clinical unless it's in the private sector. So again, it's quite easy for Ola to say, yeah, we're not for you, but you might try someone else. Again, it's to enable people to make it easy for them to say yes or no. Yeah, saving time, saving everyone time, right? So these masterclasses, you know, they're available to both our premium members and also our fellows. For persistence, so for the same reason, if you keep going on anything, you will get there. You will get there. And this is all about how quickly you get there, right? You know, as an entrepreneur, there's a million and one ways to do something, but it's like, what is the fastest way that we can achieve our mission? And the reality is, you may have heard this, and I talk about this in the podcast, there are lots of unhelpful stories told by many doctors on how they literally just like, oh, I wanted to get into industry. I wanted this health tech job and I was offered it and I started it and that's all I had to do, right? But they don't tell you the narrative and the detail and the grit and the challenges and the obstacles they had to face in order to get there. They kind of gloss over that, or they just ignore it, or they forget about it, or they don't want to share it, right? Because, you know, getting into industry is a different kettle of fish compared to what we experience as doctors in the public sector, like getting into specialty training. It's a different game. It's a different game. So in industry, be prepared for a lot of no's and radio silence. No's and radio silence. That's normal. If you get that, that's absolutely normal. Absolutely normal. So yeah, so that's the persistence bit. And then abundance mindset. So this is the 5th one I've chosen. This is really important for you to have. Mindset is one of the key areas in the curriculum for our incubator. And I'm going to step back again and stop talking too much, because I'm always quite conscious of that. And I'm going to ask you a question. So what do you tell yourself to stop yourself from really using LinkedIn as a tool fully? So what do you tell yourself to stop using LinkedIn fully? So we talked about mindset in our last group session, the doctor's mess, we call it, and the incubator. I really want to hear from you. Like, what do you tell yourself to say, oh, I can't use LinkedIn because, or I haven't used it well enough because? I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat box. What do you think, Ola?
Personally, I've not really fully understood LinkedIn. So I used to tell that to myself, that I don't know how to use the platform. And then also the time element of like, it's yet another thing to do in a busy schedule, trying to achieve what I want to achieve. I'm trying to shift that more recently. So I have made the move back towards LinkedIn and slowly realizing that, you know, what I've been telling myself is not necessarily the truth. So we have some filtering here through the chat box.
Mhm.
Mm. You
Why do you
probably
think,
won't find
I'm
a
gonna ask
job.
you a question. Why do you think what you've been telling yourself hasn't necessarily been the truth? Why has that happened?
Because the thoughts that I had in my head were thoughts that are not backed up by fact. So basically they were fiction. And as soon as I started to take action and to put practice, then my actions started to become facts that goes against the fiction that I had in my head.
Yeah, common, very, very, very common. I do that all the time. So
We build up narratives in our head.
we all have our own narratives that work for us. They have a purpose, but they're not necessarily true, and they can all be challenged. So yeah, Jaden said, you probably won't find a job and don't know how to leverage it. Yeah. Don't know where to start with it. Yeah, so let's just not start at all. Get that a lot. I don't have a niche, so no point using it. Yeah. I don't know what to say, engage with. I don't have enough contacts. There are so many others out there have better profiles. Yeah, exactly. When it's been like something's been there for a while and people have amazing profiles, you're like, oh my God, I can't even compete with that. I'm just going to bother. I get that a lot. I feel like, now, I've actually invested a lot more in it, but I completely know how that feels. How do I project expertise in industry I'm not already working? That's a really, really good point. How do you project that? We talk about that, Denise. Meredad, unsure how to have an effective strategy to sell myself. I lack focus and clarity. I want to go and I focus and clarity on the direction I want to go, and wouldn't wish to make my profile too niche. Interesting. Why not too niche? What does too niche mean? I want to hear more about that. I really want to hear more. Because I get that. Because I have the challenge of balancing medic footprints and occupational health. Those are my two main focuses. But even just having the two is like, actually, is that too much? And so it's like, actually, what am I really going to focus my profile on? Is it going to be medic footprints or occupational health? And that does change over time. Sidra, first I'll do some activity or study in pharmacovigilance, and then I will make a good profile. Yeah. I mean, like, LinkedIn's a tool, so again, I get that, and I haven't done much outside of my clinical roles to specifically pursue demonstrable interest. Again, that's a very good point, Brogan. So these are all very, very common things that people tell themselves. The expert thing is a very common one. Time, absolutely. If something is new to me, I'll be like, nah, don't have time. I don't have time to learn these things. We've got other things to do. So anyway, so what these kind of narratives that we tell ourselves, it's what we can see when we have a scarcity mindset. So I'm sure most of you would have heard what that is. So this is where you feel that there's a limited resources, or there's a lack of something. So that's usually time, money, opportunities, jobs, and clients. And this can negatively impact your ability to solve problems, make better decisions, plan, focus, communicate effectively, and most importantly, spot opportunities and uncover them. There are career opportunities everywhere. And at the end of the day, if you have the scarcity mindset, you're more likely to miss 99.9% of them, unless there are jobs that are advertised on a job board, for example. So these are examples of, what we may say to ourselves. As you can see, the focus is always on, it's just not enough. And to be clear, like, I can put my hand up and say I still have these narratives time and time again. This is not something that you just never have or you just get over. I put my hand up, it's worked. I want to take it down now. Can you take it down, please? Yeah, so it's just important to realize that this is what scarcity mindset looks like. And most of the time it's just not true. It's just something we tell ourselves to stop ourselves from doing something. So on the other hand, an abundance mindset is simply the belief that there are unlimited opportunities available to you, and this will come into fruition. So I'll use an example of a doctor that we've worked with. Let's call her Nia. This is anonymous, by the way. So she wanted to move into digital health. And she was at a place where she had burnout and PTSD for working during COVID, like a lot of doctors have experienced. She'd been off work for over 12 months and couldn't face returning to her clinical job. Therefore, her income had been very little for a very long time, and she felt like she'd been forced to go back to clinical work, which was like a worst case scenario, just to pay the bills, just to get around along in life. So very tricky bind. She was very anxious, she was very fearful, and she also had a scarcity mindset, as you would in that situation. So, you know, we worked with Nia, and we helped transition her attention, not to all of the issues and the challenges that she faced, but towards having a better mindset, so an abundance mindset. So, you know, we helped her to explore areas that she could invest in, where she needed to go to develop a rewarding and lucrative career in digital health. So she invested in working with us because she knew that going it alone would actually take her longer. So that's more time spent getting there, more money perhaps wasted or lost. And, you know, as I said, she didn't want to go back to a clinical job that actually just traumatized her. So we worked together on the strategy, and, you know, health tech or digital health is a big space. So, you know, the question we had was like, how do we best get you in easily in a way that works for you, that doesn't necessarily mean you've got to get a job tomorrow? So, you know, because of some of her experience in writing and content, she decided that she was going to focus on becoming a medical writer and position herself as a medical writer in digital health. So within a matter of weeks, she was able to start establishing herself as an authority in digital health. So she managed to get herself in some online, kind of reputable online brands. Hey, Carlo, would you mind turning your video off? Thank you. And she started getting noticed by the people that mattered. So that's, you know, decision makers or people that she was interested in, depending on the company that she was interested in working for. So don't get me wrong, there are lots of jobs going out for medical writers, and like some of them she applied for as well. But the opportunity that she got was through her own work of uncovering opportunities for herself that worked for her, that wasn't pre-prescribed by a company. So within 4 months, she managed to get 3 clients and was getting paid more than her NHS salary in the amount of time that she worked. And she wasn't working full time. She was working for herself. So she's working as much as she wanted. So this is just a powerful example. I mean, this is a good scenario. It doesn't work for everybody, but this is an example of how things can be turned around when you really focus on what you do have, even in a very tricky, difficult scenario. So it's really important to invest in yourself, and it's really important to use what is great about you and what you do have, and use it to your unfair advantage. As entrepreneurs, business owners, we'd always talk about, what is your unfair advantage? What is your unique selling point that other people don't have? That is what you want to recognize, take, and leverage. And everyone has one. You don't say, oh, I don't have one. Yes, you do. It's like some of you, I don't have a USP. No, you do have one. You just need to recognize what that is. And that is work that you also need to do to make sure that you clarify what that is. Everyone has one. So we're going from, you know, what does an abundance mindset look like? Right. So going from, I can't afford it, to I see value in this, and so I'm willing to invest in it and find whatever it takes to actually do it, because I know that I'll get substantial returns or get me to where I want to go. I'm not an expert, so no one will listen to me. We get that a lot. We've talked about that already. But actually, I've got lots of experiential knowledge already from being a doctor. There's a lot of transferable skills and value to my specific target audience. So that, again, there's a huge audience there. It could be your digital health, it could be your medtech, it could be your public health, it could be a range of things, consulting. And actually, your opinion is just as important as the next person who labels themselves as an expert opinion. Everyone can be an expert at something. Your opinion is not worth any less. Just remember that. Or, you know, you go to an event. I get this a lot. I go to an event, you don't know anyone. And you're like, oh, I don't know one. Everyone knows each other and I don't know one. The reality is no one knows each other. That's why people go to events. They go to network. And so actually I'm going to introduce myself. and get to know everyone. And to be more specific, you don't want to get to know everyone. You're going to just get to know people that, again, that can help you get to the next step that you've looking to achieve. So if you look at successful doctors who have moved to industry, many, they won't tell you this, but many would have done things like learning new skills, attending professional development events like this, hiring coaches. You know, coaching is a huge thing now, and mentors. And they trust that they will get everything they want and more, even when it seems like it won't happen otherwise. So against the odds, they'll still do it. It's going to happen. So, as I mentioned to you, the opportunities in industry are limitless. Even in public sector, it's limitless. It's a bit more tricky, actually, but it's limitless. And there are 3 different types of opportunities. I talk about this in the podcast on actually how do I get a job in health tech, the 3 doors. So the first one is an opportunity that's created for pretty much anyone that's interested in a certain thing. So those are usually opportunities that are advertised that you see. But the reality is those opportunities, yes, you can get an advertised job, absolutely, but you're putting yourself up against a lot of competition. The next one of those that are created for you. So I talk about the kind of side door where you're already in an organization and you say, hey, it'd be really cool to do that. And they're like, hey, okay, cool. Should we give you that opportunity and give you that project? Or there's this job for you that we think you could do really well at to save us from having to advertise publicly. So these are created for you. But the best, you always say this is the best, is the ones that you create yourself. And so I'm specifically referencing those who decide to work for themselves, usually in a self-employed capacity. It's my favorite one. I am completely self-employed, I have to say now. And the great thing about that is because you can pick and choose whatever work you want to do. You can, your ask is what your ask. You can choose how much you get paid. You have, you know, the ultimate flexibility and autonomy in doing exactly what you want. And this is where it leads to sustainability. A lot of people do get burnt out in this process, I have to say, but if you restructure your life and your work really well, you can work in an industry that you thought you would otherwise never have gotten into, or you found it very difficult to get into. And it's a routine that a lot of doctors choose. So moving forward, we're going to go back to LinkedIn. So just the general principles of creating a profile that is desirable. So be specific. You need to really leverage those unique selling points. Be consistent throughout your profile that speaks to the niche that you've focused on, and also be concise. It's very difficult being concise. So what I usually say is a great exercise is just brain dump, brainstorm, be imperfect, make it sucky at first, and then rework to a point where every single word has to fight for their position on that page. If the word isn't valuable or is not adding anything, take it out. Be brutal, and just get loads of people to look at it and say, hey, what do you get from this? So with regards to your profile sections, so we looked at Yuki's profile previously. These are the bits that you could focus on. I would advise that you really focus on. So we talked about the profile picture, having a call to action. I'll talk to you about that later. But the key area is also the activity, because it backs up that you are genuinely interested in engaging in that topic in that sector. So when we looked at Yuki's, he was talking about pharma. He was showing pictures about him at pharma events. You know what I mean? Like, that's just additional evidence that you can show. And you don't need to be at pharma events to do it. You can just take a picture of yourself. Loads of people will just take a picture of themselves and then put it against a post. That is also fine. Ola's smiling because she does that. She actually does that herself. But it's engaging. People like people. Remember, this is a platform for people meeting people. Publications are also really valuable if you're in a certain sector like consulting, pharma, medtech as well, anything that requires clinical research. And the interest, I'm always really hot on the interest. The interest is right at the bottom of the page, which is basically the groups that you're on, newsletters you follow, the companies you follow, the high profile like CEOs that you follow. Again, that needs to speak to your niche. And so I always say, what are people in? I mean, it's right at the bottom of the page. So LinkedIn obviously doesn't kind of, they don't really kind of impress upon that too much. But personally, I always scroll down and then I'm like, oh, interests. Is that consistent to what they're interested in? And the other point is keywords. So when we talked about searching for that the pharma doctor medical affairs, it's really important that you think about what keywords would a recruiter use to find me, and then use those sprinkled throughout your profile. Again, it shouldn't be difficult if you know what you're going for, and this is why you need that focus. But make sure that word comes up again and again and again. The first place it 100% should be is in your headline, which is just below your name. So this is my profile at the moment. So my brand picture is our mission. I just wanted to highlight that I add doctor in my name. Not every doctor does this. I find this really useful just to demystify I am actually a medical doctor, and this in itself is a selling point. Don't forget it, regardless of what you're going into, always leave this is what I advise, always leave that doctor in there. I used to not do that, and I was like, no one needs to know it, but actually it gives you like an added layer of credibility, authority, and all of that stuff that comes with being a medical doctor. I've specifically chosen these hashtags, and I've got a call to action, which is listen to our podcast. I've chosen that because listening to our podcast will enable people to learn more about me, learn more about MedicFootprints and what we're about before they then choose to engage directly. Many of you may have listened to that podcast. Someone said already they listened. I think Jane said he listened to the podcast. It gives you an overview of what we're about. And that's why I'm like, listen to our podcast and then you'll get a flavor. Some other people use websites. Some other people say, email me, contact me. But this is what a call to action is. And you can actually edit this in your profile. I will talk about how you edit this later, but we're going to have a brief interlude for any questions that you might have. And I can actually just stop talking again. Any burning questions, anything that didn't make quite sense, anything you want me to kind of reiterate? If not, we can just move on. No, I'm assuming that everyone knows where we are and they haven't got any questions. Ola, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have questions, but I do wanted to mention a point because I've actually spoken to a doctor today who started working with us within MedicFootprints, and she has actually found us through searching of keywords. She was like looking for remote opportunities and remote career and that kind of thing. And it was the word remote that we had sprinkled around, and she had found it through that word and came on to and spoke to me today and then started working with us. So just to highlight the importance of having those keywords that your ideal person would be looking for sprinkled around what you are putting out there on your profile.
Yeah, and you have to remember that your LinkedIn profile is also indexed on Google. So what you put, your profile will also be found on Google as well. So if someone's on Google searching for someone like you and you do your profile well, then they will find you. So the next bit is how to proactively attract others. So we talked about what a high quality profile looks like, but actually it's kind of in some ways pointless on LinkedIn specifically if you don't have any engagement to go with it. It doesn't have much in the way of value apart from about it being found. So here's a few ways on how to stay proactive to build up your high value network. So number one is connecting or following, and number two is engaging. So we talked about the importance earlier of having a niche and a focus, so the who to connect with and why. So it's really important that you connect with the right people that you are interested in. So if you have names of people that you are particularly interested in, that's like a decision maker, that might be CEO, that might be recruiter, that could be head of partnerships, that, you know, could be a whole range of things. Just make sure that you follow them, you connect with them. So everyone that I talk to, whether it's the business to business side or whether it's our doctors, I will connect with them on LinkedIn. Anyone that messages me that I'm interested in and they're not a first degree connection, I will make them a first degree connection, right? That's really important to me. If you have any companies that you would love to work with that you're interested in following, follow them, and then identify who the decision makers are in that company and then connect with them or follow them as well. If there are any groups related to these companies, so some of these companies have career groups, like Roche, for example, pharma company, have a massive careers group and page. Follow them, join them, engage. You know, all of this evidence is great for whoever's looking at your profile. And select up to 5 hashtags that you want to be known for. And you can search these in the search bar of your LinkedIn page or your LinkedIn app or your LinkedIn desktop. So literally in a search bar, just put hashtag coaching, for example. And then you'll see this, something like this. You'll see how many people are following coaching, and then you put follow. So choose up to 5, I would say. You don't have to choose 5, but just up to 5 kind of helps decrease the overwhelm and helps keep it more specific for you. There's also a network page. Again, you can go but you can get lost in LinkedIn. But just to remind you, this is all about not getting lost on LinkedIn and really focused. So LinkedIn also will suggest other connections based on your interests and who to follow. So if you're connected with someone, for example, what's the difference between connection and followers? Connection is someone that's mutually agreed to connect with you. So you've agreed to connect with them, they've agreed to connect with you. That's the first degree connection. We talked about that. Following someone means that, like on other platforms, you know, you've got this person who's interesting and you've just selected follow, and they're not connected with you. So you can't necessarily directly chat with them, but you just get to see stuff on their posts will come up on your feed. That makes any sense. So when I connect with people, I usually, not always, but it's good hygiene, communication hygiene, to actually leave an optional message. You'll see when you connect with someone, you've got an option to leave a message. So I always do a really brief intro. If I want to talk to them, I kind of leave it, kind of say, hey, it'd be great to speak. Or if it's a general hey, then you put something that's relevant. What you can see is like this generic, hey, we have mutual people in our network and blah, blah, blah. That just doesn't wash anymore. It doesn't wash with me anyway, because it's like a generic LinkedIn. This is what LinkedIn did in the past. But it's very important to be specific if you do choose to do that whole intro thing. So this is an example of what you would put in a connection request. Especially if there's someone that's, like I say, high profile, they have a lot of connections and followers. And recruiters have a lot of connections and followers. So I saw your recent post, it resonated with me. I want to find out more about what you do, like something very specific to them. And then the next is engage, right? So engaging is a really important part of this, especially if they've just followed you. That's someone that's actually connected with you rather than the other way around. And what I found is really valuable that if someone follows you, you then reach out to them and say, hey, especially if there's someone that you're interested in, right? If you're not interested in them, don't say anything. But say, hey, I've just noticed you followed me. I'd love to find out more about you. You know, people do follow you for a reason. It's not just for fun. And just really kind of setting up a conversation, you can really get a lot back. And that in itself is a way of uncovering new opportunities. So there's different ways that you can attract people proactively to your profile. So we've talked about, again, making sure your profile is attractive, but actually proactively reaching out to people that reached out to you by indirectly by either connecting or following. These are the 3 main ways that you can do it. So posting, commenting, and sharing. I say as a minimum, it's important to just at least comment if you really want to get the most out of the platform. But I advise that if you can do all 3, and this does not have to be like all 3 on the same day or even all 3 in the same week, but just use these as different ways of actually keeping up your engagement and mix it up. So just test it out. Experimentation is key here, because one thing that works for me may not work for you. So it's important to find out what is working for you and your audience. So as I mentioned before, creator mode. So for everybody in this masterclass, I suggest and recommend that you all turn on creator mode if you haven't done it already, because not everyone will be in creator mode unless you've turned it on yourself. This is a central part of the strategy in actually finding a non-clinical job or uncovering a non-clinical job, because it will give you a greater reach, influence, and help to get you found by the right people. And here's some instructions on how to do this that you can look at another time. and and with the creator mode, you can also choose the hashtags that I talked about as well. And other things as well, like LinkedIn Lives, LinkedIn Audios. It can take you far. And you see a different perspective of LinkedIn than if you were a non-creator mode. As I mentioned to you before, LinkedIn rewards creators. So this is specifically for them to identify who is going to be contributing to our platform so we can give back to them and help amplify their voice. So LinkedIn, as I said, it's all about content. It's all about content, and it's different from other platforms. It's a great platform for thought leadership. So the approach is somewhat different. So let's take a look at a post. This is one post that I did relatively recently. So this post got nearly 4,000 impressions in a day, right? So that's quite a lot of impressions. And I have to say this due to several factors, and my reach is one of them, my number of followers. But I wanted to run through quickly what the anatomy of this is and how it could work for you. Again, you don't have to do something exactly like this, but having and this is why experimentation is really important. So having a clear and catchy open line is important. So here I chose common myths doctors have about using LinkedIn. Main takeaways are clear. So, we're going through this whole phase of like using emojis for bullet points. I find it takes a lot of work personally. And one day we won't have to do this anymore. But at the moment, we're going through a trend of having to do this. So this is why I do this.
ChatGPT it.
Oh no, ChatGPT is awful for emojis. It uses grey numbers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the time. Or it does use other emojis, but when you're like listing things out, it'd be like one, right? Hashtags relevant to the post. So the optimum number of hashtags is actually 3. But you can use up to 5, but no more than 5 ideally, because remember, it's all about the focus. And in this post, I also invited people to comment. I also invited people to take a look at the event to see if it can work for them. This event, right? And there's a very clear call to action. These are also other things that you can do as well to really maximize your post. And if you really want to post for impact, people talk about, oh, I've got to post every day in order for it to work for me. No, you don't have to post every day. So I post about 1 to 2 times a week at the moment. And that's, I don't always post every, like when I'm on holiday, I stop posting, but it's important that you experiment. Some people I know personally that I follow on LinkedIn will post several times a day. For me personally, that's not sustainable. I don't have time to be posting several times a day, but some people have time to do that and they love to do it, and that's great for them, right? So it's really important to find a frequency that works for you. You can use the scheduler if that works for you too. Some people do. It's really important, especially in creator mode. Another thing you get is analytics of your posts to see about like when you posted, what kind of engagement you got, and see trends in that. That's really useful. And also when you do post, I don't know if anyone's heard of posting and ghosting. Don't do that. So when actually people take the time to comment, you have, in order to drive the post further, again, LinkedIn will reward you for actually, driving engagement by commenting. You can extend your reach, you can expand your reach. And this is a great way to network in itself, just by commenting, whether it's your post or someone else's post. So another strategy is to respond to every comment and drive conversation to drive engagement. And a lot of people say, oh, what do I write? I don't know what to write. Oh, it's not going to be good enough. I'm not an expert. But just like you would do in any conversation, just tell us your thoughts. Tell them your thoughts and be really honest and authentic about it. The more authentic people are, the more likely they are to stand out and the more likely they are to get these opportunities, because they just don't give a shit. And actually, that's what people want. They want people who are just raw and authentic. So again, your unique selling points, bring that out in your comments. Don't be like everybody else, because everybody else essentially is boring. It won't stand out, right? And also welcome further discussion. So keep driving engagement. Sharing, if you're stuck on content, just share something interesting that you have, articles, things that you've done, things someone else has done. Repost someone's post if you think it's great to share. And it's also really great and useful to actually publish a LinkedIn article. So, LinkedIn, you can actually write an article on LinkedIn. Very great for search engine optimization. But LinkedIn loves you if you do that. That's another way to actually really increase your authority. Whatever you do, just make sure it's relevant to your network. And again, this is why it's really important for you to, again, choose a very specific focus. How do you know this is all working with all of this effort, right? More followers, you'll see, more direct messaging from relevant people, not just anybody, but relevant people, more engagement in your posts, and more specific opportunities coming your way. Yeah. So I know, again, there's a lot there, but it's, again, just remember the high level principles of you need a focus, you need a very clear purpose, and you need to experiment with the strategy foundation, but experiment and see what works for you. I'd say, if anything, if you literally did not want to do anything else, commenting is king. It's underutilized way of networking. Just comment on other people's posts, and especially if not many people or no one has commented on it yet, be the first is always great. Being the first is great because that poster will thank you, and vice versa. If you post and some people comment, just say thank you so much for commenting on this. Thank you so much for reposting this. Again, it's all about engagement. So, how to reach out to your ideal person. So most of us get stuck on knowing what to say, as we've talked about. And when we actually find, oh, this is the right person for me to actually just ask, like make the ask to. But the reality is everyone's on the platform to do exactly just that. So they're expecting you, if you're interested, to reach out and say something. That's what they're expecting. This is a standard. So don't be scared of it. I know, you know, it's like going to a party where you don't know anyone. It's the same thing. We're all here to meet people. That's what the platform is for. And remember, it's not just about networking being the dirty word. It's about building relationships being the key, building relationships over the longer term. So remember, it's not a transaction. Relationships spawn opportunities. Remember that. Relationships spawn opportunities. So hopefully just remembering that will help take the pressure off the kind of reach out, because you don't need to reach out to get a job in that first conversation. But it will enable you to kind of move forward with a genuine conversation. That doesn't mean you've got to like sell yourself to them in that 1 second, right? Because otherwise it can be hard. So who should you reach out to? Depends on your goals. So you've got people like CEOs, anyone that makes a decision, basically. People that can introduce you. So remember, your network is also for referring you. So if you've got someone that isn't directly connected to you or you want an intro to, whether it's on LinkedIn or off LinkedIn, you can just ask someone on LinkedIn that you know to do that for you. Or you can also, again, people that have engaged with you or your posts, and if they're interesting to you or relevant to you, send them a direct message. And I've started using voicemails a lot. Have you ever done a voicemail, Ola?
Yeah, that's like my go-to if I'm in a quiet area that I can actually voicemail.
Voicemails go a long, long way. People connect with people. That's why voicemails are great. And you can do that on LinkedIn. So if you're still listening and you're still here, we've got a little exercise for you. So this is actually, shall I do this exercise? Actually, let's move on. But you can do this exercise in your own time because we've got another exercise. So for this one, it's the power reach out script. All right. So again, it's like, what do you say? I don't know what to say. This is our power reach out script. If you're about to reach out to a decision maker. So it doesn't need to be more than 3 lines. The whole idea is that you use the structure to then devise your own reach out script. And I would literally go and save that reach out script somewhere that you can copy and paste and edit every time you reach out to someone to save you a lot of time rather than typing it out again and again and again. So this is an example. Hi, Samira. I followed you for some time. I really value your content on burnout for doctors. I'm a doctor and clinical content writer for high impact wellness publications. I'm exploring ways to feature stories from experts like yourself in wellness at work. Would you be interested in having a 20-minute call to discuss whether this could work for you for next week? So it's not long, it's concise, it's specific. What else do you like about it, Ola? Assuming you like it.
I was going to say, but no, it introduces the person. It identifies like their niche, what their interests, what their purpose is, and there is a clear ask at the end of it.
So at the end of it, you know, do I say yes or do I say no? You can make that decision fairly easily. Is it a yes or a no? Actually, the only thing I would change here is sometimes it's better to be like, can I call on, do you want to have a call at this specific date and time? I don't always specify depending on the context, but again, make it easy for someone to make a decision about whether they want to go ahead with you or not. And follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. This is another example of someone looking for a health tech opportunity. Again, they have a very specific interest of regulation and product validation. Are you free for a quick call? Again, people don't like long calls. So sometimes I really emphasize, actually, this shouldn't take up most of your time. It's an intro call. Again, it's a building relationship call, not can I have a job now call. Yeah. And so just the importance to really emphasize the don'ts. So don't write a long thing. I've done this and I still do it sometimes, and it's a mistake. It's always a mistake. So don't write an essay. Don't make it all about you. So I personally do get a lot of messages, especially when people are looking for something. You know, I love hearing about doctors and their stories, especially when I specifically ask for it. That's what I love. That's great. That's solicited. But sometimes when people are saying, hey, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for a job because I hate my job and I'm tired, I'm burnt out, and I just don't want to be in this situation anymore. And I want this job because I'm amazing at this, and the other. That is not a good way to approach someone. It really isn't. Because at the end of the day, people do need a bit of nurturing. They want to feel good about themselves. Like that's just human nature. So it's important to make it more about them than about you. CV spam. So this doesn't happen as much now, but I've seen it happen. And I do still get it, where doctors will just send you their CV and be like, can you find me a job? Well, A, that's not what we do in that way. And B, no one likes to be CV spammed unless they're a recruiter, or unless they've specifically said, can you send me your CV? So don't do that in the first reach out. Again, we talked about specificity in the ask. So going from, are there any jobs for doctors going, to, you know, hey, I'm interested in health tech. This is what I'm good at. I saw what you posted. Can we have another call? That's way more effective. Someone needs to be muted. I'm not sure who that is though. And then don't go for a long pitch unless you've been specifically asked to pitch. So we talk about the clarity statement and we work on this. This is like one of the top milestones for our incubator fellows, to be very clear on who you are and what you're doing. And we talk about it a bit more. And that is also in the How to Sell Yourself masterclass, if you've watched that or planning to watch that. So Emily says, what about if this is your first reach out to a new industry, not much to write in the clarity statement? You always have something to write in the clarity statement. You always have something to write in the clarity statement. So you could be saying something like, I'm a doctor who's with an interest in medical writing about health and wellness, or something like that. You know, if you have an interest, if you have a passion, you can write about that. Or I am an anaesthetist with a special interest in public health in Southern Asia. You know, you always will have an interest and a reason for being on the platform. Just make sure you use that clarity statement to really clarify that reason. The more specific, the better. And as I mentioned earlier, don't forget to follow up. 7 is 100% the magic number. People are busy, and just don't assume that if they haven't gotten back to you that the answer is no. And just keep following up, because actually people do appreciate follow-ups. They know that you're actually motivated, because it adds to the level of credibility when you're like, hey, I know you're busy. Hey, people do respond eventually. And actually 7 is the magic number. So most people give up at 1 or 2. So just remember that. It can be soul draining, I have to say. It's not easy, but if you're really motivated to get ahead, expect that you may have to follow up time and time again. And finally, your high value network LinkedIn strategy. So this is what we're going to work on today for a few minutes to get you started on. So we're not going to do all of the questions, but this is a strategy that you should use to really build your network purposefully, to save time, to save energy, to save overwhelm, right? So I want everyone here today to write down in the chat box. Again, nothing is wrong here. I'm not going to hunt you down and be like, hey, you said you were focusing on this niche, but you wrote this. You know, I'm not going to be doing that. Just make it up if you want to, if you don't have anything you can clearly think of. But write down, what is your niche or area of interest? What do you want to achieve? And what is your target market? So who's going to be interested? Who are you trying to target with your interests? Who's going to help you get what you want to achieve? So I want to give you like a couple of minutes in the chat box. You can't be wrong here. No one's going to be wrong. So I want to hear from you. What is your area of interest? So I know someone here is interested in product. What do they want to achieve? They want to grow their career in product, or they want to work at specific companies, maybe Google, for example. Who's their target market? So I would assume their target market would be a hiring manager at Google, maybe another clinical scientist who's an influencer at Google, something like that. As an example, Ola, what is your niche area of interest?
Putting me on the spot there. I should start getting used to this. So, well, let's go with helping doctors find alternative careers.
Great. So what do you want to achieve?
Connecting with doctors who are looking for non-clinical careers.
Great. And who's your target market?
So that is the target market and the audience.
So it's doctors looking for
non-clinical careers.
Great, simple.
Mm-hmm.
So we use another example. Feel free to start writing in the chat box and share that with us. So what is your niche area of interest? Femtech. What do you want to achieve? I want to raise my profile by identifying 3 speaking opportunities. So this is someone who wants to raise their profile by going down the speaking route. That's one way of raising your profile. Who's your target market? Femtech conference organizers, because those are the decision makers. For getting that. How will you attract them to your profile? By joining Femtech groups, lots of stuff here. Got the hashtags here as well. But we're looking at the first 3 things, very simple. They've thought about it, they've written it down. I like to see this like a business plan. You just ask yourself some very pertinent, important questions that helps you to focus and move forward. How will you reach out to them? By sending them a DM, direct message. Some people might have a script for that as well. And then what are you going to ask them to do? Say, can I have a chat? Can I have a call? Can I email you? You know, there's a whole range of different things. And how often we kind of revisit this strategy, because first plans don't always work out, and that's part of the process. So how often will you be re-looking at this? So again, I know that this is a lot, but look through this and write this down. And we could also send you a document to enable you to work through this. Why call to actions? Why is that important? Again, it makes people then feel like a kind of conscious need to want to respond because they've got a very binary decision or action they need to take. And apparently statistically, they can increase conversion, so someone to take action, by about 120%. So why would you not? Why would you not? So we've covered everything today. I know there's been quite a lot there, ironically, but this is designed to be, it's a meaty masterclass, but also it helps you to really cut out the chav in your approach and give you some focus. So the key is have a focus in a niche, have a strategy and a plan, and then be consistent and persistent in your approach. If you don't remember anything, those are the 3 key points that I really want you to kind of take from this masterclass. Just again, to reiterate, a confused mind cannot make decisions. They cannot buy from you if you're selling something, and they cannot refer. So yeah, so I mean, there's been a lot there. I'm going to pause again to see if there's any questions or any comments. It may have been ultra clear, or you may be in confusion zone and want to check out. That's fine. I mean, it's been a 90-minute masterclass, so there's been a lot there. But I'd love to hear from you if you've got any questions. Now is the time. And just whilst you're thinking about it, those of you that are non-members, we are offering, as part of your admission to this masterclass, live feedback on your LinkedIn profiles. So we will, if you send us your LinkedIn profile, you can work on it after you've watched this masterclass. Again, if you want to, we'll send you the recording the next day or so. If you want to send it to us, we will do a video review of your profile to really point out some key areas where you can improve. But we really need to know from you, what is your key focus? It's got to be in context or relevant to what you're actually trying to achieve. So you've got to be clear, this is what I'm trying to achieve. Does this look like it can do that? Right? And you'll have 28 days to enable you to actually have access to the recording and to send us that. So don't hide from that, because that's a really great opportunity just to get some friendly feedback on what areas you could improve once you've done a little bit more work on it. You might say, hey, can you look at it now? That's also a great strategy. And happy to do that too. So yeah. So we've got a question from Jaden. How important do you think LinkedIn Premium is? Good question. And seeking opportunities. So LinkedIn Premium, it can be quite useful. I showed you the Sales Navigator, which is like the higher end bit of it if you're a recruiter. It's useful to message people who you're not directly connected with, because you get what they call like in-mail credits. So you actually get to message people without having to wait to be connected with them. So it can be useful from that perspective. If you're applying for jobs on LinkedIn, you can see most of the time who posted the job. Again, if you want to try and get hold of the hiring manager, that's one way of doing it. And they do have different tiers of like levels of payment. So it can be really useful. Is it essential? Absolutely not. It's not. So if you're like, I'm not sure, you're not gonna miss out massively. But it can be quite useful. I would say the most useful thing is doing what we just discussed today, and then seeing how far you get with that without actually having to pay any money to LinkedIn, because you can get ahead without doing that. We've got some more questions, but before we go on to those questions, which I will answer briefly, as I said, alone, if you do this alone, which a lot of people do, and that's absolutely great, it can be really lonely, it can be really challenging, and yeah, like mind-numbing, just frustrating, especially when you do reach, you will face lots of obstacles in your journey. You will. That's just part of the process. No one has it easy in this. And if they told you they had it easy, they didn't have it easy. They didn't. We also like to say the best journey are with friends, and in this case, a tribe of doctors that help you to get the job you want and build your high quality network. You get some insider tips, you learn from other people's mistakes, like you have done in this masterclass. This masterclass is a result of a combination of mistakes from thousands of doctors, and including myself, I have to say, and also a great ability for greater